All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, can you please make some noise for Ramon? Let's go!
Kia ora whānau, kia ora. Okay, I'm going to get emotional already. Can we have a big round of applause for DJ Matio? It's both amazing and terrifying to be here. I can't lie, I'm pretty nervous. I've been working in the youth sector for a little over a couple of decades now. Arataiohi, Involve, and before that, NZAD have been a big part of my youth work journey. I remember coming to my first Involve in 2002. I was much younger then, very excited to be in Wellington for my first time. I was presenting a workshop and I was absolutely bubbling with excitement. I think I'd been up most of the night before exploring the city.
Peace up, A-Town. Yeah, okay.
I saw some of you this morning and it looked like you'd been doing your own exploring last night. No snitching, I'll carry on. I just remember walking away from Involve and that year knowing I was on the right path. Over the last 20 years since then, I've found myself on various Involve organising committees, on Youth Week posters, on the National Board of NZAD for about 8 years, and I've seen many of my youth development heroes up here on the stage. I stand up in front of young people and teachers all the time, but doing this in front of your peers is absolutely nerve-wracking. But it's something that I feel deeply honoured to do, and just thank you all so much for being here. So, for those of you who don't know me, I better tell you who I am. I'm Ramon. I'm a poet, a DJ, a facilitator, but most importantly, a youth worker. I'm the co-founder of a group called the South Auckland Poets Collective, and the manager of an incredible organisation called Action Education. We use spoken word poetry as a tool for youth development. Our flagship program, Word the Frontline, is an inter-high school spoken word slam that engages with hundreds of young people across Tamaki every year. This year, we're facilitating our first pilot program in Ototahi, 03, let's go. For those of you who are in Christchurch, on Tuesday, please come to the piano and check us out. We'd love to see you there. If you've ever been to one of my workshops, I probably began it with a poem. I do this to help ground me and be present, and also letting you know a little bit about me. I'm going to do this now. This is the first performance piece of poetry that I ever wrote. Being half of what? Is one side more important than the other? Why? Because it's brown or because it's lighter? Shame, being brought up by my mother. Helping her to fight her rumbling, stumbling, drinking madness, huddled under tables with other kids, battling the same sadness, cringing at breaking bottles and the smell of dawning days, alive with spilled drinks and dreams and scattered ashtrays, not knowing me, not knowing self, not knowing any other way. This half hurt, but always dreaming of a better tomorrow where good times would overcome the sorrow. Safe and snug at Nan's in a world where the cupboards were never empty, sitting on her knee and always enwrapped in her warmth and her safety. That half makes me smile. My dad a stranger and his land stranger still. I was never captured by this richness, but now I wish to stand for food. It took his death and my journey after to yearn my culture and to miss his laughter. This half was lost. Responsibility was passed to me as the eldest son. It enabled me to see him again, to see my two halves whole. I am one love, one soul. I forgave him like I forgave my mum. And once again, my half is a whole one.
Get your damn hands up. Go get your damn hands up. That's the anthem. Get your damn hands up.
All right. Look at this guy. So, as you could hear, I had a lot going on as a kid. For some of us, we grew up in households that there were a lot of not so great things going on. Alcoholism and domestic violence were some of those things for me, and both my parents had some pretty big issues in terms of their mental health and well-being. It took my father most of his life to live up to the responsibility of what it meant to be a man and a father. He did get there at the end, Dad? But growing up, he was a pretty violent man. When I was about 4, my mum began to see how his behavior was beginning to impact on me, and she got us out of that situation, which wasn't easy. Once that happened, though, she had her own demons to face, including her own alcoholism and bipolar disorder. This led to a pretty colourful time growing up. I went to 7 primary schools, 3 intermediates, and 2 high schools. This looked like us getting kicked out of a lot of flats and houses. This looked like us ending up on other people's couches or on the street. This looked like me being exposed to a lot of unsafe and traumatic environments. And on the bad days, it looked like being uplifted from SIFs. The thing is, though, that when you're a kid, you're pretty resilient. For some of us, our survival mechanisms are so strong, they almost act like a superpower that shelters us from a world that's set to pulverize us. I just thought this is how life was. And pretty much through primary and intermediate, I just got along with it and really thrived. It wasn't until I reached the end of high school when I began to look around and realize that my life was a little messed up, that I had a different experience from those around me. I went from being able to stand up in front of an assembly at intermediate and speak in front of the whole school to not even be able to stand up in front of my class and utter one word at high school. I thought that potential was a flash word for dumb because it was in my report so often. I ended up leaving school at the beginning of year 12 with no qualifications. I bumped around doing lots of random jobs, and for 2 years I worked in a broom factory, and this is legit what I did. Psh, psh, psh. On the really exciting days, I got to do this. Psh, psh. True story. But no disrespect to anybody who's ever been in these roles. I know I needed to be there to figure some stuff out. I remember one day looking around the smoko room and realizing that I needed to be doing something else with my life, that I was more than a machine. I looked in the paper and I saw a job there as a youth worker. I thought, wow, maybe I can do that. I might even be pretty good at it. This is where I started my journey, volunteering for Youthline. I thought at the time it was to get experience and to do good things for young people, but it ended up being one of the most powerful things I ever did for myself. It began a journey of personal development and self-awareness where I found both purpose and whānau, and I really don't think I'd still be here if I had not begun that journey. For my Youthline whānau, I'll be forever grateful. Today, though, I have some incredible friends that are joining me up on the stage to help me with this presentation. All but one of them, I've known them since they were at high school. I'm really, really proud to count them all as colleagues and friends now. The thing was, though, that they were always incredible. There was nothing that I did or our organization did to make them incredible. They already were. We know that our young people are built with perfection and purpose, and that they have all the tools and answers that they need. It's just that sometimes in their immediate environment, it's not always set up in a way that allows them to access their own power. So what we do as youth workers is that we curate and build environments and relationships that are rich with all the elements which enable them to thrive. It's pretty easy, eh? But we have plenty of roadmaps to work from, mana ohi being one of them. So we know that these superpowers at the top, right, they're the ones that young people already come from. Those are their origin stories. And these 4 at the bottom are the superpowers that we flex as youth workers to help them unlock and hone theirs. This is also what Pooja and Anya were talking about yesterday when they said, know your magic, grow your magic. On Monday morning, Matakino said that sometimes you have to be the guiding star for others. You are the guiding star for your young people. And if you shine bright enough, you will help them to see the superpowers and gifts they never even knew that they had. We know that this is a great model to facilitate healthy development, the healthy development of young people. But in fact, as youth workers, this is also a model to facilitate the healthy development of ourselves. When putting together this presentation, I was reflecting on how busy I was. I began thinking about that for a sector that talks to our young people so much about the importance of their hauora and their self-care, how amazing that so many of us struggle to do the same for ourselves. I know there's a lot of projection in that statement, so I'll own it, but I do think self-care continues to be a real issue for our sector. We know the last 3 years have been rough. For myself, it has been some of the most difficult years in terms of my own mental health. Grief has been massive for me. Losing my Nan in 2020 amidst the chaos was so difficult. Love you, Nan. Developmentally, our rangatahi are learning how and who to be among their peers amidst one of the strangest social times in a generation. We are relearning that too in many ways. For many years, I have avoided dealing with my own trauma and well-being by throwing myself into my mahi, showing up for my community and our young people, but failing to show up for myself. That isn't okay. If I would leave you with anything today, it is do not wait for as long as I have to show up for yourself. This is also a life's work. Like youth participation, this is not a tick box exercise. You have to keep on showing up for yourself, and that is the toughest part of all. This year, it's kind of felt like there's something amiss in the time and space continuum. Like, how is it August already? It doesn't make any sense. I think as the world has begun to speed back up again, trying to pull us back to the speed we were traveling at before COVID, or even make up for lost time, there is a disconnect with our capacity to do this. This can be said for both young people and for the sector that serves them. Never before has our self-care and development been more important. This is the challenge that I throw out to you today. That if we as youth workers actively engage in manatai ohi for our own development, to enhance our own well-being, then it only makes sense that we do a better job ensuring that young people do the same. Providing them with spaces and opportunities with the optimal elements so that they can thrive means we need to be intentional about working towards our own optimal selves. All right, so let's start at the beginning. Mauri, the inherent life spark of young people, supporting the development of identity, including at the values, beliefs, skills, and talents. This is important, just as important for us as it is for our young people. As a young person, I loved writing. If you asked me at primary school what I wanted to be when I grew up, it would be to be a writer. Back then, it was writing stories. I would create whole worlds and then get lost in them. I later fell in love with poetry. This was really important in my teenage years because I was someone who could not speak about the massive confusion going on up here or in here, but I could fill up whole notebooks with my poetry. This helped me to process my feelings or at least kind of get them out of here. When I found my way to youth work, I found that it was a great developmental tool. And this led to 2009, linking with my friends Darren Kamali and Grace Taylor and co-founding the South Auckland Poets Collective. I often describe this as a beautiful accident because it was so organic in its process, but this quickly took up a life force of its own. It opened a doorway for us because it enriched our own Māori whilst also sparking the same for the young people that we were working with. So, the first person that I want to welcome up onto the stage to speak on the next superpower, a source of limitless strength, Whakapapa, is someone I've known since she was 14 at high school. She was one of the OG members of a groundbreaking youth advisory group that I facilitated back in the day. When she got older, she then came and worked for us at Action Education and became a member of the South Auckland Poets Collective. They've always been a superhuman, but now they're also a super mama. She's a creative force to be reckoned with. Can you please welcome to the stage, Stevie?
Yeah, about to catch another flight. Yeah, the apple bottom make 'em wanna bite. Yeah, I just wanna have a good night. I just wanna have a good night. Hold up, if you don't know, now you know. If you broke, then you gotta let him go.
Tēnā rā tātou e te whare, ko Stevie Davis tāna tōku ingoa, he uri tēnei no ngā puhi, ngā tihine, te aroa, ngā tiraukawa ki te tonga. Oh, kia ora whanaunga! And I am here today to share a poem about how knowing your whakapapa, knowing where and who and what you come from is a superpower. So this is my poem called We Are Born. When asked what the greatest achievement of mankind has been, geographer Jared Diamond replied, "Undoubtedly the greatest achievement of mankind was the exploration of the South Pacific by early Polynesian explorers. The connection to the environment was and is unparalleled in all of human time. You see, we are born of the ocean. Sandy skin and salty shoreline shoulders, where waves at our waistline line our spine to the stars, wind-whipped hair, heart bound to the horizon. We are born of innovation, curiosity carved into collarbone, kauai carried across rolling tides, children of the night sky, constellation collected compasses, every cosmos within reach, fingers dancing across the galaxies. We are born of potential. Between yesterday and tomorrow, we wrap the morning dawn around us and turn our hearts towards the sun. We are magic and purpose and hope, the tidal waves and the raging sea, the gentle storm and the morning breeze. We are talented and creative and unique. Do not let them tell you it was by mistake, by accident. We were born of purpose, so we must live on purpose like our tipuna, ride waves into possibility, eyes wide open. We are born of courage, beats of the chest and howl out into the night just to hear the voice of your tipuna echoed back at you. Our tipuna did that. Our blood did that. And if our blood can do that, then we can do that. Our tipuna have already crossed the ocean. Our blood has traversed the tides. We have come so far. Let your voice resound amongst the heavens. Let your song bellow into the night, that the world may hear the call of your heartbeat, that it may know our tipuna live on in you. The world has flung its doors open to you, and you can always find your way home. My son's whenua is buried in the mangroves in Matapodi. At the converging of land and sea, where potential and belonging meet, so that he knows wherever he may go, he will always be planted in home, Hawaii. And this is what I pray for you, an extraordinary life of becoming, of knowing. I sing your song into the wind that it may carry you courageously into every horizon. Whisper your name to Hine Moana that she may bring you safely home, which is to say, you carry our people with you wherever you go. You are never alone. You are born of us and we of you and God's. Don't you wear it well?
Don't think about it too much. Don't think about it too much. How you in the same club, and yeah, you're still two-stepping. Yeah. I guess I'm just too lucky.
My friends are cool. Hononga is about joining and connection. Linked to Whakapapa, it is about connection to people, whenua, resources, wairua. This is so crucial. And when you are building and shaping your programs and services, this should be the lens that you are looking through. How are you activating these connections for your young people and for your team? How do you magnify these connections? And how do you maximize the opportunity to do so? Te ao taiahi, te ao, the big picture, the local and global impacts of the world that we are working in. Another kōrero gifted to us by Anya and Pooja yesterday was that working with young people gives us profound insights into how the world needs to change. This is a big one for me, and I'll speak to one aspect of this. In 2012, when we were developing the best practice guide to working with young people and spoken word, the South Auckland Poets Collective fundraised $25,000 to bring 12 of us to Brave New Voices, the biggest youth poetry festival and slam in the world, and that year it took place at Berkeley University. This opened our eyes to a whole wide world and showed us the richness that our own stories carried. We saw firsthand the power that spoken word had to build community and inspired us to start thinking about how could we bring this back home and what would that look like within the Aotearoa context. This is where we met the person I'm about to invite up next, who's going to take us through a quick icebreaker. We never knew at the time that we were to become best friends and also colleagues. They are a slam champion and literally a world leader in what he does. Can I please welcome up to the stage, Ken.
And this one is for the champion. Ain't lost since I began, yo. Funny how you said it was the end, yo. You know we did it again.
What's up, everybody? Give it up for DJ Mateo. Cool, y'all. I just want to speak very quickly to, at the time that I met Ramon, I had been running a youth poetry program in the United States called Denver Minor Disturbance. And I came into this space from an artist lens, right? I had worked to become a professional artist and found myself wanting to work with young people in the sense that I realized that if I had something like that when I was younger, I might not have gotten into so much trouble. But the thing that struck me when I was lucky enough to get to work with Ramon later on is the fact of where it was grounded. The world that I came from was about art and then providing that for young people. But what Action Ed has always done that I've always learned so much from is the fact that the young people were the base from the beginning, right? That it was about youth workers who were using art and not the other way around. And there was a safety in that, and something that I just thought is nowhere else in the world existed. So from the perspective of a spoken word standpoint, it's incredibly unique and beautiful. That being said, too, a lot of what we do is we end up doing things to try to make people feel safe, to remind themselves that we always are in challenges. So I'm going to do that to you right now with this warm-up real quick. For anybody who's ever been to the slam, you might have done this before. When you walk up on the stage, it's a bit terrifying, right? Sometimes it feels like you don't have a choice. You made the decision, you're here, everybody's looking at you, it's kind of weird. Maybe you said something dumb, maybe you didn't, who knows, right? It's kind of like, I like to go on roller coasters sometimes. You sit in the roller coaster, you're strapped in, you don't got any choice. That's what we're doing right now, folks. Everybody put your hands up. You're all in a, oh, that looks cool. Up, 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 up. We're all in a roller coaster together, right? It's a little bit awkward. It's a little bit bumpy. Maybe it's an old roller coaster and you didn't plan for it. There's bumps, just like in life, right? So you're leaning back because you're going up the hill, right? Look over at your friend and be like, why did we do this? Why are we here? This is terrifying, right? And then you're getting up to the top. Remember, that's what it feels like to be on stage. You see that little platform? You're like, maybe I can get out. You can't. You're strapped in. Hands up, right? So you just got to let go. You got to enjoy yourselves. You got to remember your voice. And what that means is we're all going to go down together and we're going to scream. You ready? So back, up to the top. Here we go. Yeah! 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 Give yourselves a round of applause.
Yo, thank you, Ken. Kia ora. Whanaungatanga. With young people, we prioritise whanaungatanga, taking time to build and sustain quality relationships. As I get older, I believe more and more that whanaungatanga is the key and fundamental part of youth work, and one of the biggest superpowers that youth workers flex on the regular. Not only is this developing relationships with young people, but is providing coaching and opportunities for them to build quality relationships with their peers and other safe role models. The next poet I'll welcome to the stage was a participant in one of the first spoken word programs that we ever facilitated. He's a national slam champion and a facilitator for Action Education. Can I please welcome up to the stage, Eric?
You at? Let me get a hand clap. West Coast, where you at? Let me get a hand clap. West Coast, where you at? Let me get a hand clap.
California, LA, show Is it too late to get off? Shioto ofa, talofa lava. My name is Eric. I am Samoan Tongan on my Samoan side. I'm from Potasi Falealili. On my Tongan side, I'm from Whilemea and Ha'apai. Gonna talk a little bit about whanaungatanga, what it's meant to me. I think one of the cool things is how it's kind of like distinguished from whakapapa in terms of we create that link between each other. You're born with your whakapapa, but we get to like nurture that. Like Ramon is one of my tuakana, an older mentor, older brother to me. And I'm his tainer, so I get to be a little bit cheeky sometimes and still got a lot of love for me. And in that same way, I've gotten to be an older sibling mentor for a lot of youth. I've been very blessed with that. And what I'm gonna share is a poem for some of my youth who are gonna graduate. I've been working with them for 3 years now. They haven't heard it yet, y'all get it first. Cool. My confident kids, my sometimes moipis, my all-the-time warrior scholars, I'm really proud of them. If you'd hear them speak, you'd understand why I call them bridge makers and border breakers, because the mana they have in their words literally shakes the room, tips it on its side. They are talented. They call themselves, and this is what they call themselves, the 298 Kura Hood Rats. They call themselves the children of the state, and they call themselves the Hoonicorns. They call each other names I'm not gonna say on this stage, but all of this is said with love because our kaupapa is grounded in alofa, fa'aalo, respect. Me, my siblings and cousins who get to work with them, we call them the 298 Urban Orators. After the 275 Urban Orators, it is a blessing to have a lineage. Even on a camp 5 hours from South Auckland or the next suburb over, they are always papakura to the bone, and this reminds me of something we have always known, that when love is in a space, it is transformational and the seeds will always grow. That when you see a person where they are eye to eye, where you exchange breath, where you have much to learn as they have much to learn, where you have much to teach as I might have much to teach. You cannot tell me that the ancestors inside of us do not ignite with love when we get to share that sort of space harmoniously, together, respectfully, weaving dry jokes, songs, and knowledge in a classroom. This poem is for my children, who overcame every burden that has been put in front of them, who continue to hurdle over obstacles even when they create them. This poem is to the skin that they shed to become the person who can take on that challenge. This poem is for my kids, who trusted me enough to take the chips from their shoulder, make them into a stage which we could stack on top of each other and they could be seen and heard from. This is for my kids, because I am so proud of you as you almost graduate. It has been such a joy to watch you grow into your words, from shy little juniors who looked like you were wearing words that were your siblings' hand-me-downs to being comfortable in your skin as you are now. I am a better man for having been able to journey with you. Long live us. Long live the 298 Urban Orators. Thank you.
685 when you speak, 685 when you're radio, 685 we'll be rolling, 685 we'll be trolling.
Shot, Eric. With young people, we need to uphold and extend Manakitanga, nourishing collective well-being. This is another essential piece of the youth work puzzle, as it does not matter how good your activities or service and programs are, if Manaki is not present at all levels, your engagement will always struggle. If the kai is good, then the hui is good, period. We know this. I think as youth workers, our manaki is so strong, it is probably what attracted us to this mahi in the first place. Interpersonally, this can come very naturally, but sometimes we forget to think about, as an organisation, how do we extend Manakitanga in the same way? All right, so whai wahitanga recognises young people as valued contributors to society, giving them space to participate, assume agency, and take responsibility. The next person I will invite up completely embodies this principle to the core. She took part in our programs every year from years 9 to 13, and she was a leader in every year. She's one of the most powerful and capable people I know, an incredible game changer, an organizational leader, an activist, and while completing her degrees at uni at the moment, she is also the Pacific Community Coordinator at Greenpeace. I welcome up to the stage my friend, Fili.
Talofa lava, my name is Angangele Fili Fepure Itapu'i. I'm from the villages of Whaiae and Sungunge in Siva'i, Samoa. And I was proudly born and raised in the 275 Mangere, South Auckland. Sweet. So like Ramon said, I was so blessed that my high school experience, I spent a lot of my time with Action Education and in the World Frontline Slam Poetry Competition. And I really believe that I wouldn't be half the person I am today if it wasn't for the work that all these people that have crossed the stage have done. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. The poem that I'm going to share with you today, I wrote 5 years ago when I was 15, and it's called 275 Love Letters to Southside. I hope you enjoy. "275 Love Letters to Southside. Auckland and South Auckland are not the same place. When I realized that no place outside of Southside would want to pronounce my name properly, I scraped it off their tongues. And still, haven't my ancestors' screams been muffled between textbook pages? Didn't a teacher at my South Auckland school call us nothing more than South Auckland crap? Aren't I lucky I wasn't born when the dawns were raided still? My South Auckland. Red and blue runs through your streets in the forms of bandanas, flags, and flashing lights. So much so that people choose to forget what the color of our sun looks like. Shine flashlights in our brown boys' eyes so much that I can never forget what the color of our suns look like. While our daughters become mothers to their siblings so young because their parents are working shifts at night. Isn't it funny how the media doesn't focus on that, but they focus on any recorded street fight? Everyone loves to point fingers, but I guess no one can afford the time to ask why. And I spent my life growing up in classrooms where I had more friends with no lunch than friends who were eating. Hear my friends joke about how they expect us to buy Chromebooks and we can barely afford the tuck shop food more times than I've heard a school bell, you see, joking about your pain as a rite of passage in these South Auckland schools. Because it's not like the education system teaches us how to deal with it. And yet still, isn't the reality of our lives to you just politics? And ever since Ponsonby left my mother for a white woman, I guess driving through Ponsonby is like looking at collections of old faded photos I don't remember living through. It is the movie I never got to watch. A chance of a happier brown community is just another one of its deleted scenes. You see, Ponsonby is your cousin who forgot their roots so their branches grew away from you. And still, in South Auckland, family is still family. So when Ponsonby shows up uninvited to the family function, I will awkwardly kiss them on the cheek, wait for them to tell me that I'm the splitting image of my mother, and they never do. And I could stand here, give you all the reasons I love my community as a peace offering, pull the moana out of my lungs so you can breathe easier, drop my slang, fix my posture, and make you feel all kinds of ways while I stand up here, and still, if you drove past me walking down my streets, if you saw me talking on TV, Aren't I just another one of those fobby, ghetto, ratchet South Auckland kids? I didn't get to choose, but if I did get a choice, I would still choose this and everything that comes with it. Still. Ka whataiti lava.
I've been drinking more alcohol for the past 5 days. Did you check on me? Now did you look for me? I walked in the room.
Yo. Okay. Did I mess up my notes? Tauranga. This was something that echoed deeply with our climate panel yesterday, that we need to look backwards to move forward, that Mātauranga Māori held many solutions for us that we needed to invest into Indigenous expertise, and that for our young people working within the climate movement, that leaning on intergenerational knowledge is really crucial. With young people, we empowered by rich and diverse mātauranga, informed by good information. This refers to knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and skill. Again, this next group of poets I welcome to the stage completely embodies this principle. I've travelled with them all around the country and the world. They were the Grand Slam winners of We're the Frontline in 2018. We then took them to Melbourne to compete in the Trans-Tasman Slam, where we bet the Aussies. We then took them to compete at Brave New Voices in 2019 in Las Vegas, which was a full circle moment for me, coming back to where it all began. They were the first team to ever represent Australasia in this competition. Incredible creatives, humans and poets, welcome up to the stage, Ngāhine Kōrero.
Kia ora tātou, ko Arihia Hall tāku ingoa. He uri tēnei no ngā tutu wharetoa, no te aroa, no ngā tutu korohe hoki.
Kia ora mai tātou, ko manaia tū whare hoani e tū ake nei. He uri tēnei no ngā puhi nui tonu, no ngā tiwai. Do it!
Kia ora, ko te rina tōku ingoa i te taho tōku pāpā. He uri tēnei no ngā puhi, no ngā te whātua, no te aupauri hoki. I te taho tōku māma, he uri tēnei no rarotonga no aitutaki.
Tēnā rā tātou katoa, ko Matariki Bennett tōku ingoa. He uri tēnei no te aroa, no Ngāti Pekeao, no Ngāti Whakau e hoki.
And we are Ngāhine Kōrero. We're going to share a poem that we wrote for BMV back in 2019. The poem is called Tōku Reo, and yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Warning though, we do get very, very loud, and I hope you enjoy that too.
Te reo Māori is the native language of this country, passed down from generation to generation. Over a single century, it almost vanished from a law that suppressed the sound of it in schools. Kids were bruised by their teachers' knuckles for speaking it on the playground. This was their way of delivering us from our wayward state. They viewed our language as the head of a snake, deemed useless because it wasn't written on paper. It wasn't long until we were forced to speak.
In silence.
Our kaumātua.
You mean grandparents?
Their lives were stained in blues and purples, English fingers slithering around their necks,
subdued until their sentences were laced with shame,
choking on blood and pride.
I can hear their screams.
I've never heard them speak. Nowadays, being fluent in te reo Māori is a privilege.
And I've been told how lucky I am to have it as my first language.
To speak patterns into the air.
Over time, it has lost its ability to fly.
Language separated from tongue like root from tree.
So we talk harakeke.
You mean flax?
Into our cheeks.
Stick the fibers between our teeth.
Let them knit together in our breath.
For if I stay silent, my tupuna.
You mean ancestors?
Will find a way to pry my jaws open.
My grandmother couldn't speak.
She was beaten until her jaw was broken. Use the pieces to raise our family. I speak teachings of broken bones because no one else in my family could. So tell us to be quiet, and we'll breathe life into ancestors we haven't met.
Tell stories of a past submerged in bleach. Legacy lives on in our voices. You can't take them away from us.
I hate forgetting.
Had to teach myself the prayers.
No.
Karakia, my parents didn't learn. We learned not to forget,
but to hide. In our whispers, keeping our culture alive in the bottom of our lungs.
We drowned our reo in the depths of our puku, stitched it into our clothes.
So tell us to be quiet and know that we won't. This is our language. We are reclaiming it. We will speak it because our bodies weren't built for silence. We will speak it until every eardrum is bruised. We will speak it for every person that was beaten into silence. We will speak it for every person that was never taught. We will speak it. We will speak it. We will speak. Maku dene reo e kawe. Mātoku arero ngā kupu o kutupuna e whakatingana.
Kia maumahara ai tō rātou nei matora.
Kia kore rātou e koroheketia.
Ko wai koe ki te whānako i te poutāwha o mātou nei tūpuna.
Patu ākiri, rere ātoto.
Anei rau mokopuna e tahuna te ahi.
Hei te pō, hei te ao. Anei rau ngā whenua I moere hurehui o kutupuna. Ki ngā kino o te Pākehā. Tēnei tōku reo. E haruru ana I te whenua.
I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, it's like worth living, should I blast myself?
I don't have much more to add after that, but kia ora, thank you so much for all of you coming up today. It really, really means so much to have you all here. It helped me get through my nerves for sure. Dancing with you at the beginning helped, But, hey, couple of last things before I finish up. We're going to be at the Mangere Arts Centre on Saturday. We're going to be there from 1 to 4, so please come along if you're in the neighbourhood. If you are in AK, we'd love to see you there. 7 schools battling it out to get to the Grand Slam. This year is the 10-year anniversary of Word the Frontline, which is amazing. What began with 27 young people in 2014 has grown to literally hundreds of young people each year stepping up to their front line and slaying their demons with their words. Over the last year, we have facilitated 600 workshops around the country with thousands of young people. It is a journey that has taken us around the world and back again. It is certainly something that I never dreamed about as a young person, scribbling in a notebook, sitting in the back of the classroom. Before I finish up, I'd like to welcome up all the poets back up onto the stage. Please, please, please come up. And as people are coming up, the last thing, I know I'm a little bit over time, but the last thing that I want to leave you with is whatever your organization does, whether you're in education, recreation, whether you're sports-based, whether it's about coding or gaming, entrepreneurship, whether it's about youth services, YPP, advocacy, youth leadership, youth justice, whatever it might be, it's all about youth development. If at each interaction you are looking at how to practice and enhance these principles, your young people will thrive. We know that it works. Thank you for having us. Keep showing up for your young people. We know that they need you, but most of all, keep showing up for yourself. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Everyone, round of applause.
Automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh. With my body so melodic, this beat rolls right through my chest. Everybody, Martin, Poppy.